Hey, I'm Angie. This is New Path Tarot. We're going to do a pick a card style reading today, so you can select which pile or piles are the ones you're most drawn to, and if none of them are really talking to you, then maybe it's not the right video for you at this time. So pile 1, your card is release. So if there's a message for you in pile 1, otherwise pile 2, love, and or pile 3, self-love. Okay, so I'm going to hold all 3 of them up so you can compare them. Which one or ones or nones release 1, love 2, self-love 3. Okay. Take a moment, take a breath, pick your pile, and you can skip to 2 or 3 if you did not select 1. The timestamps are in the description and the comments. Okay. So if you're pile 1, let me go ahead and put these away in the right order so I don't screw this up, because I will. This is the pile for love, and this is the pile for self-love. Okay, release, people. Pile 1, release. The other cards that are supplementing your reading, first one comes from, maybe I should shout out the decks separately. I didn't even think about that. I'll do it at the end. How about that? If you want to know what decks I used, go to the end. Maybe I'll do it like that. Okay, cool. Anyways, so dhyana, meditation, Sanskrit word for meditation, dhyana. Learn to rest your mind in awareness, absorbed in the flow of consciousness without resistance. You know, when you hear the word meditation, sometimes we don't even know what that means. We know what meditation looks like from the outside. You can look at somebody and clearly know that they are meditating because it has a look to it. Their eyes are closed. They're sitting in lotus position or half lotus or cross legs, whatever. And they have their hands like this. And they have this peaceful look on their face, right? You look at them, you go, that mofo is meditating. What you wouldn't think is meditating is somebody just sitting here looking at the wall. What are they doing? They're probably in their head. They're thinking, right? You don't know that for sure. But you do know what meditation looks like. But that does not mean that's meditation necessarily. There's so many different types of meditation. But the key here, I think, is the wording on the card. Learn to rest your mind in awareness. You're resting your mind is the point of meditation. Because when you have all these thoughts, your mind's not at rest. Your mind is active. And then, so how do you rest it in awareness? That's the simple feeling of you're just not thinking about anything. But you could. You know, awareness isn't just like you are aware of things. It's like there are things to be aware of. Whether or not I'm thinking about them is whether I'm in a state of meditation or if I'm in a state of active mind. So, absorbed in the flow of consciousness without resistance. So you're not, that's the other part about meditation is, if you're sitting there going, you know, like you're trying really hard to meditate, you're not really meditating. You're just like trying really hard to meditate. It's like that, you know, do or do not, there is no try. You're either meditating or you're not. Trying to meditate, you're not. And that's why I try to tell people to do different types of meditation that aren't where you're like really trying to meditate. Oh man, I'm not supposed to be thinking about anything. Oh, I just thought of something. Oh, I'm really screwing this up. What are you doing? You're thinking. So the best thing to do is either focus on something, keep focusing and keep focusing and keep focusing, because if you're focused on one thing, you can't be distracted by other things. Just straight up trying to keep the mind empty, you're literally going to be resisting. So the flow of consciousness, mind you, absorbed in the flow of consciousness, that part right there is good, because whatever and ever, I don't even know how to say this, everything that exists already exists. Everything that is already is. Everything there is to be known is there. That doesn't mean you need to know it for it to exist. It doesn't mean you have to know the inner workings of things for them to just be. So if you're in the flow of consciousness and your mind is silent, you're doing it right. If you're in the flow of consciousness and you're having thoughts, you're not in the flow of consciousness. The flow of consciousness is silent. Weird, right? Okay. Green Tara, supreme protection. You are protected. Cords are being cut. Move beyond limitation and trust. Okay, so release, based on everything I said about meditation, makes sense, right? You're releasing from trying to meditate. You just are. Now when we're talking about release and it says cords are being cut, what are cords? They connect you to people, places, things. They connect, cords connect your energy body to something else energetically. So let's say let's say you have a childhood home, and let's say you had bad memories at your childhood home. You still might have cords tied to the energy of that, if not location, that experience. Let's say you have somebody from your past that you had a really bad argument with, and every time you think of them, you think about that argument. You might have cords with not even just that person, but that argument. It goes beyond just the idea of a cord with a person, because that's usually what we think of when we hear of cords. We think, oh, I gotta cut the cord with this person. That's even like a common saying people say. Do they even know what they're saying when they say, oh, I really gotta cut the cord with this person? Because it's a figure of speech. But they're talking about, I gotta break the energy between me and this other person, because there's a negative energy association when I think about this person or when they come to my mind. So release might just be a person, but it might be more than that. It might not be just a person, but it might be a specific thing that is attributed to that person also. Move beyond limitation. Remember, I will always remind myself through this platform, so I'm reminding you, but I'm also reminding myself, anything that is negative or drama or causes issue, sure, look at it, handle it, deal with it, but also don't forget to take a step above it and look at it from either outside perspective or higher perspective, and or both. So outside perspective would be somebody who is not engaged in the situation, like they're not energetically attached to it in any way whatsoever. And higher perspective would be, you're not attached to it in any way whatsoever, because you're not attached to anything in any way whatsoever. So you can look at the situation from non-attachment, but with the higher mind perspective of things such as forgiveness, unconditional love, we're all one, those kind of themes. That's the higher perspective theme. So when you're talking about moving beyond limitation, that's what we're talking about. You are protected, and trust is really kind of like a mentality to have as you go through your life, but not to the point where you're like, I'm so protected that nothing bad will happen to me ever. Because you are really setting yourself up for disappointment if that's the case. Believe me, I know, I've been there. I was like on this Abraham Hicks and Bashar mode of my life, And I was like, I am so like high vibrational, everything I'm attracting to myself vibrationally is in alignment and blah blah blah. And then something really bad happened, and I was like pissed off at the universe. Like, I thought you had my back. Like, I thought I was doing what I'm supposed to be doing with being in alignment and what I'm vibrationally attracting to myself and blah 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 blah. And then I realized on some level it's a bunch of bullshit. On another level it's not, but that's what I'm getting at, is more not if it's bullshit or not, but the point of, yes, you're protected, but bad shit does happen to good people. Don't have the bubble around you, like you can walk through fire and not get burned. Okay. Druid, hold space. Did I show you green Tara? And then hold space. If you know somebody who's going through some bullshit, you gotta hold space for them. Sometimes there's nothing you can or even should say. Sometimes you just gotta be there and be like, hey, I know what you're going through sucks. I'm here. I'm not even gonna say anything like I understand. I might not even understand, or I might. But on the other hand, like, you just do what you gotta do. You let me know if you need anything from me, that kind of thing. This reminds me of, like, maybe you have a friend who needs to, like, crash over at your place, or, to get out of some kind of situation so that they can kind of take a break from it, reassess. It reminds me of somebody who they need you to be the outside perspective because you're not biased. So, they tell you their thing, and you say, well, I see it like this. This reminds me of something like you as a spiritual person helping somebody else, cutting their cords with either a person or a situation or something that they're energetically attached to in a negative way. This reminds me of somebody that you need to help them release from a situation, whatever it may be, because it's no good for them. It's not serving them, probably not serving whoever else is involved either. This could be a job, this could be a person, whatever it is. They might be holding on to a business they don't want to let go of. They might be holding on to a home that they don't want to let go of. Their life might look really, really, really bad from your perspective. Like they're about to be homeless kind of situation. Wherever they are in life right now, even if you're thinking, wow, that situation sucks so bad, I am, like, part of you is like, I'm so glad that's not me. But on the other hand, it's like, how do I help them? But on the other hand, like, there's all these things. Just simply holding space if you don't know what to say. Just simply holding space if you don't know how to help. That is in itself a way to approach these things. It's not helpful to tell somebody that's about to be homeless, for example, oh, you just vibrationally attracted to that yourself because you're negative, or you're negatively wanting to experience this or that. And it's like, what the hell are you talking about? And then you have the other perspective of it. It's like, if you tell them, oh, just meditate or just see this from a higher perspective, when you're in that situation, you can't see a different way because you're in that kind of lower energy kind of place, and rightfully so. So that's why it's important for you to make sure you're meditating, to make sure you're in the flow, and all of those sort of things. Because, when I do these readings, I notice I'm talking to two different people. I'm talking to the person who needs to hear the message for themselves. And I'm talking to the person who needs to hear the message to help somebody who needs to hear the message themselves. And I don't do that intentionally. I just notice that that's kind of what's happening. And I'm just saying whatever that comes to my mind. But I notice a distinct shift when I go from kind of like where I feel like I'm being preachy to where I'm being like talking peer to peer. So we are holding the space for every crazy shit thing that's going on right now in the world. And as it gets more and more crazy, because it will. And people are going to be in some really hard situations that spirituality may or may not really be helpful to them. You know, they're going to feel abandoned. They're going to feel lost. They're going to feel like the universe took a dump on them. Why me? You know, why did this happen to me? There is no God, you know, that kind of thing. It's just that if you're you on a spiritual path, you know, you probably have already worked through all these thoughts. So now you can hold the space to help them work through their thoughts without putting answers in their head. Hey, this is what I believe, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's the truth. That's just the logical conclusion I've come to in my years of processing. So if that's helpful to you, here you go. If not, whatever works for you, you know. But I'm here for you if you need to vent, or if you need to just like get out of your situation for a little bit, you know, whatever. This is obviously, I'm talking about if they're a friend of yours, you know. All right, cool. So I hope that was helpful in one or both of the capacities. And if you also picked 2 or 3, if you picked 2, I'll start with you right now. All right, pile 2. The card you selected is love. The thing I like about hearts is when you see the heart like this, like when you see an anatomical heart, it's like this. But the hearts that we see, you know, are like this, cutesy ones. The idea though is like when you put 2 anatomical hearts together, it forms this shape, you know? And then when you have the flames coming out of it, you'll see like in images or in pictures or paintings, artwork, this is like the divine flame coming out of it, so divine love. Not sure if that's what they meant when they made it, but cool. All right, so let's see. The cards you also got are Santosha, contentment. So Santosha is the Sanskrit word for contentment. Be playful and embrace life without judgment or conditions. Spiritual joy arises from within. Be playful and embrace life without judgment or conditions. So this would be judgment or conditions you place on yourself, others, your expectations of what your life should be, expectations that you give yourself or others give you, or just your overall expectations. Like, I expect in my life at some point I will do this or that. So not having any expectations for your future is what is basically being called here for. Because contentment is being content literally in the moment. And if we're always striving for something else, you're never going to be content. If you have expectations for the future, that's the number one way to set yourself up for disappointment. All right, so we'll leave it at that. Next card, hope, love and acceptance. Love is yours. Recognize your divine worth. Choose loving thoughts. So with this one, you're having a dual message. Love and love. Love and acceptance. When you accept, then you are then content, if that makes sense. It's kind of going along with the whole contentment vibe. Recognize your divine worth means it doesn't matter if you think you have worth or if somebody else thinks you have worth. somehow on some level you were put here. I keep staring at this deck I have. It says you are incredible. So, and then play on players. That's pretty much what we're doing here, right? But yeah, my eyes are like fixated on this, and then I'm like, maybe I should read that. And it was upside down. And I'm like, you are incredible. Okay. Kind of goes along with what I'm saying. It's like who you are at your core self is a divine being. Therefore, it doesn't matter if other people who are not living in their divine expression accept you or not. They don't have maybe the capacity to accept you just as you are, flaws and all. Maybe they just don't, they're going to have to accept themselves before they can accept somebody else. The topic being love, if we're going to talk about unconditional love, is I accept you, flaws and all. I accept myself, flaws and all. So you can love somebody, but you can love them conditionally. You can love somebody to only a certain capacity, but you can also love somebody unconditionally. And you may have heard this before. We are all here to master unconditional love. So is there even one person you can say, I love this person unconditionally? If you have children, then you probably can name at least one person. Can you love your partner unconditionally? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe you can conceptually love them unconditionally, but in practice, it's much harder. Acknowledge where you are, accept where you are with that process, and continue striving. Because unconditional love does not mean putting up with shit. It just means I'm going to love you despite the fact that blah, blah, blah. You can love somebody but not like them. You can love somebody but choose not to even be with them. You can be like, look, I love you, but I think it's best we go separate ways. That kind of thing. For whatever reason. So, Earth Mother, feel loved and comforted. Another love card. Now, maybe it's good time to say I didn't select these cards like with intention. I'm selecting them randomly, but I did it ahead of time to save time so that you're not sitting there watching me shuffle. But all three of these cards, love and acceptance, feel loved, and love. What's the theme here of pile 2? This one being contentment. So, honestly, I don't think I need to go on. Your reading is really concise and to the point. And it's one of those kinds that you could listen to a few times and get different things out of it depending on where you are with your journey of love and unconditional love. And remember what I said about thinking about who can you love unconditionally. And if you think about the parent love to the child, maybe you had conditional love placed on you, but you as a parent can be unconditionally loving to your children. But the idea is, if you don't have literally anybody in your life that you feel loves you, at least you can feel supported by connecting with the earth, which causes the next conundrum, which is then you start to feel the sorrow of how we treat the earth and what that unfolds for you. But in this reading particularly, it's more about accepting love as opposed to, the hurt of the earth and the world and other people. This is about love and acceptance of yourself so that you can love and accept others. Okay, cool. That's it. So if you also pick pile 3, then we'll move on to that now. Okay, pile 3, self-love. So we have Mary Magdalene, teacher awakens. You have something important to share. Follow the inner call. Don't let anything stop you. You have yoga, union. That's what Sanskrit, what yoga translates to is union. Union with the divine. So when you hear somebody go, I'm going to yoga class, they're actually saying, I'm going to union with the divine class, which is kind of funny. They don't realize they're saying that. Okay, connect to source through the spiritual heart. Union is life beyond duality. We're all very dualistic by nature. We're all very black and white, wrong and right, yes and no, and all that sort of thing. So if you consider source is beyond a duality, because it's both good and evil, right and wrong, both. That's why when people are like, they attribute God as this good thing, and they'll say devil, bad thing. Well, if there's a good God and a bad devil, at least above that, there's source. So when you do yoga, you are in union with the above the good and the bad, the above the duality. Connect to source through the spiritual heart. Not talking about your heart chakra necessarily, we could be, but then there's the higher heart chakra. So there's that. And then we have hunter. Track down your fears and desires. So sometimes you have to even realize what you desire and acknowledge it, because do you even know what your desires are? Do you acknowledge them, or do you ignore them? Self-love is saying, what is it that I really, really desire? And what is keeping me from that which I desire? Like when we're saying tracking down your fears, what am I afraid about having what I desire? Or what is it? What would be the process of me achieving what I desire? What would that look like? So like, what would I have if I really could have anything I wanted in the whole world? And if I could have that, what would I have to do to get to that? Self-love in this way means putting yourself first. So when they say you have to put yourself first before you can take care of another person, that's what we're talking about here. If you know you're not right in the head because you have some things to sort out, if you know you need to take a break from maybe all things and all people, and you just need to like go be in the woods for a few days or something and hit a reset button, but you know, you need to do some soul searching. You need to have some thoughts, you know. This could be somebody who's like going through a midlife crisis or going through a Kundalini awakening. Because when you have teacher awakens, we're talking about you. You're the teacher. So what are you a teacher of? Like when you have this yoga card, you could be a teacher of yoga. But are you a teacher of yoga, or are you a teacher of this is union with the divine? Because in yoga class, teachers, unless it's like gym yoga, and even sometimes teachers will fit it in then, will throw in philosophy with the class. Like sometimes at the beginning, sometimes throughout, sometimes at the end. So like you'll be in a pose and we'll say take a breath, you're breathing in your prana. And then sometimes we'll be like literally explaining the spiritual background of what it is that you do this pose for. What what is the name of this pose? What does it mean beyond just this is what you're doing physically? So the teacher always is evolving. You don't just wake up and go, I'm a teacher now, and that means I never have to learn anymore. When you're a teacher, you're always a student. You're always working to improve yourself. You're always being the example through your own life. You can't tell somebody to do something if you're not willing to do it yourself, or at least have a really good reason for why you don't. And making spiritually aligned choices and helping others to do so as well. There was a yoga studio I worked at when I was like, I need to go back to do some advanced training, so I got to be off the schedule while I do that. She was like, okay, but you committed to, this. And I was like, okay, but I have to go back and do advanced training. I'm not a good yoga teacher if I just stay where I'm at. I have to refresh my skills, or I have to like learn something extra. You don't have to. Some teachers will be like, I've been teaching for 20 years, but you can hit a plateau. So sometimes you need to incorporate different things in. Sometimes you need to just refresh. Whatever it is, you're still the student. You always can even learn something from your students. But this says, follow the inner call. Don't let anything stop you, to include yourself. Tracking down your fears that keep you from following the inner call. So you have to connect with the inner call. By connecting with that which is beyond duality, putting yourself first, and then following it, and not stopping when you hit roadblocks. Anything that creeps up, address it, acknowledge it, release it. So if you picked one, also the release part. If you have fears that have anything to do with unconditional love, and you picked 2, that's how that ties together. And if you picked all 3 piles, good luck. Good luck. Just for you guys, because you're cool, I'm gonna pick a card because I was drawn to talk about it from the deck of characters. Be prepared that whatever card comes out may or may not be serious, because this deck has a lot of funny cards that are just literally not even like legit. Okay. What card is best for 3? See what I'm talking about? Yep. I was watching somebody's video that used these cards, and the poop card was in the pile I watched, and I was like, oh my god, I gotta get these cards. And that's the funny card that came out for you guys. Okay. So we have Rock, Watchdog, Tongue, Bulldozer, Thief, and Airplane. Fly high above duality. Get any obstacles out of your way. Acknowledge your shit that you have to deal with. Be watchful and mindful that you don't go back into fear mode or, your old patterns. And rock your life. See how I did that? I don't know if it made sense or not, but whatever. I was rolling with it. All right, I gotta go. I got a reading. Peace out. See you on the next video. Have fun. All right, I'll show you guys the decks that we used for the reading today. Got the Threads of Fate Lumen Edition. Those are the ones that you use to select your piles. Then we used the Inner Path Yoga Philosophy deck, Keepers of the Light Oracle cards, and Angels and Ancestors Oracle cards. So that's that. And also I put the decks in the description too if you want to check that out. All right, have a great day. Bye.